Well, I suppose Loki didn't do a good enough job of explaining where Loki takes place, even though they did. I thought it was apparent. People are still confused. Let's talk about the timeline. Let's talk about how it might factor back into the proper MCU. Okay, so I made this handy graphic that explains Loki's placement in the MCU. Do you see the original Avengers? The down arrow that leads to Avengers, Age of Ultron, and then Infinity War, and then Loki dies there. Now you notice the arrow pointing up that leads to Loki. Again, Loki is a sequel to the Avengers, the original Avengers. Due to the Avengers using the quantum realm and messing with time and space, which was already predetermined as it's explained in Loki, Loki grabbing the Tesseract caused a small variant. He then ended up making a parallel timeline that splintered from the established normal, the predetermined normal sequence of events. So everything that happens with Loki from this point on out is in another timeline, in another continuity that's running parallel to what happens after his death in Avengers Infinity War. Now, of course, if you go one step back, it's actually going even further, because at the time where he's removed from the timeline, we don't know where he was placed. So the TVA could honestly be 1,000 years in the future, 1,000 years in the past. They can be anywhere, and they are everywhere. So Loki now exists out of time and space, and as they time travel to different time periods, there's obviously something going on here with the plot that's causing problems in the timeline. So hopefully, I think that should make it simple. Like, this Loki, the Loki series, has no major impact on the normal MCU timeline, unless they decide by the end of it that this Loki is going to redeem himself, and maybe he becomes the Loki we see that sacrifices himself for Thor and to save everybody, or somehow they decide, hey, we're going to restore this Loki to the normal timeline. Maybe he'll just be a secret agent that hides behind the scenes and nobody knows he's alive because he's got to keep up that appearance, because he's ultimately going to become a good guy. Which could happen, but we really got to just wait to see what happens in the series overall. But yes, the timeline is very simple. Loki, it's its own continuity, has no effects on anything that's happening with anything in the main MCU. So when he dies in Infinity War, everything that happens in Thor: The Dark World, this Loki we're following in this series did not experience any of that, because the Loki we're following is the same one we saw in the Avengers film. Hopefully I've cleared that up if the episode didn't do it.